Hey everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make the template so you too can be able to make these really beautiful wreath builder cards. Now once again, I just want to say from the beginning, I did not think of this idea. I actually watched a video that Wendy Cranford did from loveandstampin.com. She said she watched a bunch of different people's videos. I know Gina K also has a wreath builder template that you can purchase, and I think somewhere else along the line another viewer of mine told me that there was something that originated before that. So this is not my invention. This is just a video for you to be able to make one as well. It's very simple. So as you can see, you can make these cards. These cards have a 5x5 center panel, 5 1/4 layer piece underneath, and then the actual card is 5 1/2 by 11, and then you score it again for 5 1/2. So the same for this one. I'm going to show you two different ways that you can make these. So you're going to need to start a piece of grid paper. You're going to need a pencil, a Sharpie, and a pen. Pen is optional, but you definitely need the pencil and the Sharpie. You're going to need either a T-square ruler, which you can get these on Amazon. That's where I got mine. Or just a regular old plastic ruler. See-through is kind of helpful, but doesn't have to be. You're also going to need, eventually, to be able to make the wreath builder, your Stamparatus. You're going to need a piece of window sheet. So we do sell this in my online store. It's Stampin' Up! Window sheet. This is going to measure 7 1/2 by 7 1/2. You're going to need, when we actually put a card together, you could use a 5x5 piece, 3x3. It just has to be square. And then I have a couple pieces of just printer paper, okay? So this measures 5 inches by 5 inches. And then this one I believe I did at 3 1/2. Is that right? Yeah, so 3 1/2 by 3 1/2, because I wanted to show you two different things. You can make as many of these as you like once you layer it down, but I just want to explain to you how we're going to do it. So we're going to put our window sheet on the side for right now. We're also going to move our Stamparatus over right now, because what we're going to do first is actually make the template portion of it. So what you're going to do is, I'm going to show you first with the 5x5, and then we'll do the second one so you can do that as well, so you see. So what you're going to do is you're going to just fold. This is just a piece of copy paper that I cut with my trimmer to 5 inches by 5 inches. You're going to fold it in half, and then you're going to repeat the same process, and you're going to fold it in half the other way. And you do want to make sure that you're pretty precise when you do this. It doesn't need to be scored, but so now you're going to have your 5x5 piece that has a center square in here of where the lines intersect. And the grid paper is great because it already has these intersecting lines. So what we're going to do first is we're going to line up our crosshairs, okay, with this center line. And then we're going to line the fold down here with this center line. So you want to make sure that you intersect. And the grid paper is really good because you can make sure that it actually fits in the squares, so it works out really well. And then you can either take your pencil, or you could use a pen if you wanted to, and you just want to trace down around the square. Oops, on all, oh goodness, on all 4 sides. Now granted, this is just the paper for your template, so if you make like a little whoopsie, it's not going to matter. Now we're going to take the 4 points and we're going to line these up with our corners. So same thing again, you want to make sure that it lines up on the line, so all 4 corners are square and they point to a line. Just move that over a little bit, and then we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to take and we're going to line this up, and I'm actually going to do this twice. So I'm going to do this one paper right here is just going underneath. I'm going to do the 5-inch paper, and then I'm going to go back and do the 3 1/2-inch one, just because I don't want to confuse you. You could do them all at the same time, but I feel like if I do too much, it might make it a little bit confusing. So this is basically just our scrap now. So you could keep this if you wanted to. But again, this measures 5 inches squared. Ooh, too sharp of paper, too sharp of a pencil. So 5 inches by 5 inches, and you could do it with any square. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your window sheet, okay? So this is going to be about 1/4 of an inch larger on each side. So if you lay this down on top, you can see it goes 1/4 of an inch. So it goes 1 square above on all 4 sides, okay? So we have that all lined up so it's square. Now what we're going to do is you can either take your T-square ruler, and this is helpful just because you can line it up to the corner if you want. And you're going to line that up to the edge there. And you're going to take your Sharpie and you're just going to trace Okay, so there's one. And you do want to make sure that it stays lined up. So if you wanted to, you could absolutely put like a piece of tape to hold your window sheet in place. You could kind of tape it on the corner there once you get it lined up. That way you're assured that it doesn't move. Not really necessary, but if it makes you feel better just to make sure it doesn't move, you could do that. Same thing again, we're just going to line this up here. Take our Sharpie, trace, and this is kind of just basically giving you a template to move the paper in. So it's not actually going to lay in it, it's going to lay on top of it. So there's our fourth. And then we're going to just go through and do the same thing here. So we're going to line it up on the actual square. And you can do either one first. It does not make one bit of difference which one you do. I don't know why. I think I always tend to go to the diagonal first. Same thing up top. And then once we do this, I'll show you how to do the other one. And then it'll all make sense. And then what I will do afterwards, since this is just going to be a template maker video to show you how to make it, I will try to link this back. Let me just close this up to my other blog post so you can see the cards that I already created. And then what I'll do is I'm going to film another video as soon as I finish up the second part. So now you can see here you have a nice little template maker. So I just want to show you this. Just so you understand, you don't have to have the second thing if you don't want the second square. It just helps you if you wanted it to. So then what you'll do is, depending on if you are or aren't going to use, so if you have a clear mount stamp or something that has foam on it, you don't need this piece. But if you're using photopolymer, you want to keep that in there. And then you can keep in your paper just so you can see what you're doing. You're going to slide your template on top. And then grab a magnet. And then what you're going to do is just grab your piece of cardstock and you're just going to lay it right on top of the square. And as you move, so just like that, I'm just going to grab a stamp here and just show you how this works. So as you move around, and you can use any stamp, so I'm just going to do this with these little limbs here just so you can see. No, limbs, little branches. So you would lay this down. Doesn't have to be specific, but we'll kind of just put it in a loose form. And sometimes the photopolymer is a little bit stickier, so you want to make sure that you're centered nicely. So you could use your second magnet, but you don't really need to. So we'll just do this with Pear Pizzazz just to show you so you get the idea. So you just ink it up. You can ink up as much or as little of this as you'd like. And the great part about the Stamparatus is if you ink it and you don't like the way something is, you can always add a little bit more ink to it. Just press again. Oh, I moved that one over. It was my fault for that one. And then, oops, I shouldn't have rotated that far. I should have just gone a little bit. Do the same thing again. I'm just going to ink up the stems. Always forget with the photopolymer, you get so used to using the stamps that have the foam on the back that you stop pressing hard when you need to. For the photopolymer, you either need to do one of two things when you're using it. If you ever notice that you have trouble with your photopolymer stamps, you do need to give it a minute. And that's why generally we say to press hard, because it more does the time. You need about 5 seconds for the ink to transfer from the stamp to the paper or the cardstock. Put this here again. And you'll notice on some I've done the whole thing, on some I'm just doing the top. So honestly, it's just because I'm trying not to make this too long of a video. I wanted to make a clean edit so you could see how to make this without any problem. If you want a longer and funnier version, if you go over to my Facebook or YouTube page, you can check out the card that we created on the Facebook Live on February 27th. 2019, and we did this. It was a really fun card. That's when we made the tropical card. Okay, almost done. And then I'll show you how to make the smaller template. And we'll wrap this up. So then the only thing you'll do with this is you can go back and you can add flowers on top of it. But this made a really pretty kind of like a country loose, so you could put some flowers on top of it. And the other thing that's really good about this, so if you notice when I did do this, I didn't set it up correctly, so it's stamped twice. But when you're going to stamp something over top of it, like for example, if you were going to stamp this flower over top, you can almost lay some of your images so they kind of cover up your imperfections, and then you can fix it. So it's also a great way to have something to be able to be fixed if you're not really 100% pleased with how it turned out. So let me scoot over here, take this off, and I'm going to show you how to add the smaller square, and then we will wrap this up today. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we have our square here. So this is our original template that we made. So this was the smaller piece we had. This was 3.5 by 3.5. So the same thing you're going to do again, and you could do this as many times as you like. Going to fold it again. Okay, so we have our little square here. So we're going to line up our lines with this right here and this here. So same thing again. And we're going to take our pencil and just trace around like that. Tracing around. You do have to press this a little bit. That's probably the hardest part, is just keeping the paper down so you don't have these like crazy wobbly lines. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to do point to point. So same thing again, we're just going to move our points, line them all up with the lines. We're going to make sure they are all centered perfectly. And then we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to trace this once more. And the cool part about this is, unless you use some sort of like an erasable Sharpie, which I don't know that that actually exists. Once you make this template once, you're set. You can add squares to it if you like, but once you make it one time, then you're all good. So I'm going to just line this up again, right where we had our other one, and I'm going to just do the same thing where I'm just going to put the two pieces of tape down. And the nice part about this is I'm pretty sure everybody has a piece of window sheet. So the great part is, now I did this one for the first one with the T-square ruler. I'm just going to use a regular ruler just to show you can do it either way. But then the cool part is all you can do is save a little money by doing this yourself. You can buy yourself some more ink and paper. That's the way I look at it anyway. So I'm going to just go through and trace all of these. Again, you could do kind of every square as you go. You don't have to just do all the diamonds. You could just do every single piece. Basically, just want to make sure you trace all 8 of those sides. Okay, and gonna go that. Now we're going to do the square. You can turn that off, buddy. I'm going to do this one. And that is the last one. Now, one other thing I wanted to share with you, that if you felt like you wanted to do this, you don't have to, but I did this on one of my other templates. So you can kind of just leave this as it is. So you have your 2 templates. If you wanted to, where did I put it? Oh, here it is. You could layer so you knew exactly what these measurements were. So this is a 3-inch square, so you can see that's a little bit smaller. So this is a 3-inch square. This is a 5-inch. If you wanted to make one that was 4, you could kind of layer them. That way you would know exactly what size it was that they measured. So you can do that, or you can leave it plain. The other thing you can do, because one day you might come across this and say, what did I do this for again? Which is what I do with a lot of my boxes. You could just write on the bottom, Wreath Builder Template. So then you'll always know exactly what this is for. So same thing again. If you wanted to, the only thing you would do differently is, I think I should have a smaller piece here. Let me see if this measures 3.5. Let's see if we can get 3.5 out of this. Perfect. Okay, so I have a 3.5-inch piece. So I'm just going to show you this last one, just so you can understand the fact that you can do this for multiple pieces. So I'm going to take this and just flip this around. This is a great part about the Stamparatus too, is that you can have multiple images just ready to use. So you can make a whole bunch of different cards without having to do a whole bunch of work. I'm going to pull out my magnet. I'm going to slide this back in again. So then I have my smaller square. So again, this is my 3.5 inch square. I'm going to set that there. Put my magnet on it. And then for this one, I'm just going to do something simple just so you can follow along. I'll just do this little flower here. Kind of put him like that. Again, sometimes when you do have the photopolymer, it does make everything a little bit more sticky. If you wanted to, you could also put a teeny bit of either repositional glue, or you could take a teeny bit of snail. So what you could do is you take just a teeny bit of snail, and you kind of tap it with your finger so it loses a little bit of the tack. And then you could set that here. That way you can kind of make sure it's like double insurance that nothing will move. And then what we'll do is, I'm going to do this with something that's kind of lightish. I'll do coral. And then we're just going to do the same thing. So you just stamp your image. Again, when you have photopolymer, you have to give it a second for the ink to transfer. So there's that. And then you're going to take it and turn it. And the other thing about these Wreath Builder templates too, is you don't have to do every single image. So you could just, if you wanted something to have 4 squares, what you could do is you could just skip. So you could do the first, instead of doing this one, you could just turn it, and then things will be laid out kind of more in a square pattern as well. The other thing is you can create your own patterns by, again, having one that's got full ink. And then when you do your second stamping, I'm going to turn this. I don't know what kind of paper I picked up, but it's got some kind of a line in it. And then I'm not inking again, so these are going to be lighter. So that was that one. And I'm going to turn again. I think somehow in here, in my state of trying to be speedy, I pulled off my adhesive. There we go. I'm just going to turn this like that. Again, I did that one without re-inking. Okay, I'm going to close this so I don't have an accident, an ink accident, and we're going to just turn this one final time since this one doesn't need to be inked. And then you can just use this again and again for all different kinds of wreaths. So, perfect. There you go. So, let me bring this one back so you can see this one too for the bigger one. So, we have one for the larger one that fits in there, and then one also for the smaller one. This one happens to measure 3.5, but super easy to make. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, you can always send me an email at rachthestamper@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.